I wonder if you have, like us, a mirror in the hall at the front door. It's convenient for just making sure your hair, your hat, your tie, your teeth are all looking good and all in place before heading out. But during this lockdown, I don't think I've used it as much as I thought. I want to go out to some essential shopping, and I don't exactly need to be all prim and proper, although if it's Waitrose, well, that could be another matter. But joking apart, sometimes I final check before heading out has been a good move, so there's no fashion faux pas, or instead it's a bit of maybe self-talking assurance I can do this. Prayer is a bit like that. In part, it's checking in with God. It's more than just self-awareness, it is awareness of self through God's eyes. It's more than seeing ourselves as others sees us, but seeing ourselves as God sees us. Jesus had that sussed, and it comes out of the prayer in our reading today. We can see from Jesus' prayer for his followers that it's about focusing not just about what is going on within us, but also what's going on around us as well. This passage is often described as Jesus' priestly prayer. A priest in Jesus' day was a go-between the people and God at the temple, God's house. Jesus was never a priest in his day like the priests around him, so why talk about it this way? Well, like I mentioned, he is our go-between. But since Easter, Jesus' followers are called to be a royal priesthood. In fact, the Easter story, when Jesus died on the cross, we hear of an incident in the temple in Jerusalem where the curtain that hid the most important part of the temple was ripped from top to bottom. God was telling the priests, your job is over. As go-betweeners, all of God's followers are priests. So now that means we have the role of being go-betweens, God and others. It changes the way we understand prayer and the way we pray. We are going to God on behalf of others' needs, but we're also going to others on God's behalf and his needs in the world. What a responsibility. But what does a God's go-betweener's prayer look and sound like? Well, if we remind ourselves what Jesus said in our story, we discover two things. One, stick up for one another as if God is your protector. And don't just stick up for each other, but stick together for one another. What a powerful prayer. Jesus calls us to stick up for each other and stick together. We certainly need that in this time. And during this lockdown, our prayers need to be as if we stick up for each other. When someone is isolated or even feels isolated, they're vulnerable. Then our prayers need to think through how we can stick up for each other. When someone is on their own and they feel alone, our prayers need to think through how we stick together. Who else can do it better than each other in Carnwadric? It's a big lesson I've learned while I've been here helping out as a local minister. As my time to Carnwadric draws to a close, it's been a journey for me when it comes to prayer. I remember one of the first times I met with Mary, who works at Carnwadric but who's on furlough like many others, including myself. I recall nearly 2 years ago, standing here, looking in the mirror, being quite nervous and unsure, and yet for all who know Mary, she is gentle and a kind soul. So my feelings were more about me and where I was as a person at that point. I have shared before that my faith has been on a path of renewal during my time at Carnwadric, but this first meeting with Mary was before that started. Our team meetings, well, they usually involved updates, sharing information, planning ahead, all straightforward, but at the end, it was closed with prayer. I remember as I was about to leave, Mary says, shall we close our time in prayer? It was one of the first challenges I faced in my journey of renewing faith. My immediate thoughts inside were, Why pray? Do we have to? Really? Not exactly the best response, although Mary would hopefully not be a mind reader at that point. Well, prior to arriving at Carnwadric, my prayer life had fallen to silence due to circumstances in my life, and if my prayer life could be described as anything, it was no more than just a sigh or a murmur or a whimper. For a while I couldn't even sing at a worship service. It was certainly a wilderness experience that gave me insight into what it was to feel like to have little or even no faith or no desire to pray. For me, it felt like a horrible and shameful place to be, and it was like a long, hard look in the mirror, and it was not as if I didn't believe in God. It was more I just had nothing to say nor listen to from God. Yet God is patient. He's slow to anger and abounding in love. So when Mary innocently asked this new locum minister to pray together, internally it felt like a spiritual hand grenade thrown into the inner sanctum of my soul. Thankfully, if I recall correctly, Mary prayed and we said our goodbyes. Nothing was fixed or healed there and then, but it named and called out to me where I had dipped to. And it felt like I was starting all over again. I knew something was missing. It felt lonely and hard. At the time, it was difficult to relate to those whose faith appeared much stronger or even settled. I had prayed regularly in the past. I had taught about it. It was a daily occurrence as a family. I led in public prayers. I wrote prayers. I led in pastoral prayers. And yet here I was 2 years ago, nowhere near that. Thankfully, prayer was part of my renewal of faith. But it's not the same as before. Maybe there's more to come in my renewal, but two things instinctively came through at Carnwadric, and that was if I'm a locum minister, I need to stick up for the people in prayer and pray people stick together. Why share this? Well, while it might feel so personal to me, I realise I might not be the only one it feels like that. I might have felt lost, but God had not lost me. So when I look at the reflection in the mirror, I'm reminded I'm not an empty soul behind those eyes that stare back, but a child where God is still faithfully working in me so he could once more work through me. Where did it start in Carnwadric? Well, it came through, believe it or not, people. People like Anne and Betty and Famie, who I used to visit and are with us no more. Others like Jenny, Jean, June, Sadie, Jackie, the Garys, Elaine, the Marys, Jessie, Jeanette and Willie and Betty and John and Dorothy, Helen and Christine and Jack. Many others who appreciated the offer of a pastoral prayer. I would draw from somewhere in my sort of battered spirit a prayer, and when I finished with a quiet amen, some members responded with a resolved amen and even said that it captured all that was there in their heart at the time. I was humbled, shell-shocked by another spiritual hand grenade shattering that hardened shell of a recovering doubter. That was God working in me, not because of me, but despite of me. So, I knew that at the heart of it, as a minister, if I did not stick up for others before God, if I did not fight to make sure we stuck together, then I would have lost more than my faith. I'd have lost the love of Jesus running through my veins and was the very heartbeat of what a Jesus follower is supposed to be as a go-between. Something we can all do for each other. through God's strength, regardless of how empty we might feel, or how rubbish that might be, or helpless we feel. You see, prayer, like Jesus taught, is an act of love. So why do I share my journey? Well, I don't just want to teach about prayer. I just want us to pray and be those go-betweens that we need to be to stick up for each other so we can stick together. It's an act of love. That's what this prayer is all about. What will happen when we all take this on board is that we will stick out as a church in this community that sticks up for each other and sticks together. It's what happens when those answers of prayer come. They come out of an act of love for this community from our community of go-betweeners.